Welcome to the Enlighten Up podcast, where I am going to take you into a deep exploration of what it means to exist in this current reality. We are going to raise your vibes, open your mind, expand your heart, and dive deep into the wondrous mysteries and possibilities of this lifetime. There's been a spiritual catalyst that has set in motion the awakening process of many across the globe to return to the knowingness of self and unite what has been separated. Together, we're going to bring light into that darkness. We're going to remember the joy of living. But most of all, we're going to turn up the volume of our own eternal power and do the thing we're here to do. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Enlighten Up podcast. Today I have the pleasure of introducing you to a brand new guest. His name is Tarun, and he is the founder of Contemplate, a mental well-being initiative that enables you to improve your clarity of thought and peace of mind through a regular habit of contemplation. If you live your life largely looking outward and not inward, you may not create a deep connection with yourself. So you may not make decisions that seem exciting in the short run, but in the long run, they will not be right for you. A regular habit of contemplation on his Adios principles keep your connection with yourself strong so that you can make the right decisions by using your Adioscope, which we'll get into of what that is exactly, which happens to be your personal microscope for life. Tarun, thank you so much for coming to the show. It's nice to have you here. How are you doing today?
Thank you for having me, Nicole. I'm doing very well, thank you. How about yourself?
I'm good. And I know there's a bit of a time difference. You're all the way over in India right now. But I had the pleasure of meeting someone connected to Tarun and introduced me to his method and how he helps people really connect to how to make better decisions for yourself so that you are cultivating peace in your life, which always allows you to make better decisions. I think that's one of the overarching themes of our world today is that there is a lot of noise. There's a lot of hustle and bustle, and it really pulls you into the external and not allowing you to really stay connected to your internal, which is where you're going to get your strongest guidance.
You're right, Nicole. As you said, let's pick it up from what you said, noise and looking outward. And let's look at it practically. If you live your life largely focused on the outside, what is happening? What's happening is all your input is coming from the outside. But you still need to make decisions every single day, tens of decisions, small, mid-sized, and large. And those decisions are going to impact your life, your fulfillment, your peace. So if the focus is on the outside, then you're not really connected with your inside. What does that mean? Let's be practical about it. We don't want to get philosophical about it. What does inward mean? Inward means you asking yourself, what makes me feel more fulfilled? What brings more meaning and purpose in my life? What brings me more peace? That's you connecting with your inward. If you don't do that, but you still make decisions, what's happening is you're plugged into the matrix. So you're responding to the matrix. You're responding to the external noise, as you said, external inputs. And if you don't have internal clarity because you haven't been speaking to yourself, you will get influenced by what gets thrown at you from the outside. and it'll seep into your decisions. And that is when you may choose a wrong partner because you went for excitement, short-term excitement. I need to fill a void in my life right now. This guy looks fine. We're having a good time. I think he's the one. Without thinking, is there a connection at a value system level? You may make that choice in a rush. Or work. You may pick up a project just because it sounded exciting, and then you realize it's a drain on your energy. It doesn't align with your value system or anything else. And that's when you have traded peace of mind for short-term excitement. That's when things go wrong, which then leads to stress. That's what we want to address using contemplation.
Mm-hmm. And avoid making decisions that will bring in more stress to your life. Let's talk about contemplation. What does contemplation mean to you?
Contemplation is simply thinking deeply in a systematic manner. Nothing more, nothing less. There's nothing complicated about it. It's simply systematic self-reflection using the key principles that Contemplate has. It follows the Adios framework. This is a framework that I developed out of my personal contemplation practice for over 15 years. Adios is an acronym. It stands for a dialogue in objective silence. It doesn't mean goodbye, because that's what it is. It's a dialogue that you have with yourself without a bias, objectively, in silence. So contemplation then really is you systematically thinking deeply, reflecting deeply, using a framework like Adios, so that you make the right choices on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm. Well, they say that your answers can only be good as your questions. And so I think this is where a lot of people, when they perhaps on their own go to contemplate something, to wonder if they should make this decision or that decision, what would be the best decision for them, whether it's a small situation or a larger, more important decision, that oftentimes I think people aren't asking themselves the most valuable questions that will give them the most direct answers. And that's something that I feel like your contemplate process does, is that your questions are directing someone to the most valuable answer that they could receive to make the best decision for them. How did you develop this system? Like, was it something that you learned through a process of following someone else, or was this through your own contemplation method? Like, what was going on in your life that allowed you to develop this further?
This framework developed over many, many years out of me observing what I was doing, what I was saying, and then asking myself, what is this doing to me? A regular, normal life like everyone else who leads personal decisions, work level decisions, interactions at home, interactions outside. When you start observing everything and you start asking yourself, is this making me more peaceful or is this reducing my peace of mind? Peaceful, not happy, not excited, not successful, peaceful. Then suddenly you start to see that many of the things that you might be doing or saying for years together in the past, they're not good for you. They're just muscle memory. It just stuck with you. In some cases, these could be things that have actually helped you in some manner to move forward in life. For example, you could be somebody who has come up in life by always proving others wrong. And now that becomes your so-called superpower. That's what you think. Why? Because it has genuinely helped you. That's a fact. But now if you start to look at it deeply, you realize, yes, it helped me, but it isn't making me a peaceful person. It might have helped me win that argument in the office. It might have helped me get that promotion. But overall, I am a less peaceful person. So when you apply that filter, you can start changing the way you look at decisions, the way you look at things you do. So that is how it developed, how I spoke to my mother, how I spoke to my father, how I spoke to my colleagues. Things come up at home. With everybody, you get annoyed, you get sarcastic, very normal, very human. But if you start looking at it and asking yourself, why am I doing this and what is it doing to me? Then things start to change.
Let's talk about this concept of peace over happiness, of choosing peacefulness over happiness, because this is something that has been becoming more and more a priority for me in my life as well. And something that I'm realizing that I make better decisions, and I am in the space that I truly see a better version of myself living when I have more peace in my life. And when I think about the scale of consciousness, which I've talked about several times on this podcast, the scale of consciousness, according to Dr. Oh gosh, why am I forgetting his name all of a sudden? It'll come to me. But he wrote the book, the power versus force, and the level of consciousness of peace is just below enlightenment. So it is higher than joy. It is higher than love. Peaceful peace is a very, very high level of consciousness. And I think it's not understood in the way that or valued in our world, because there seems to be this desire to chase happiness, to chase love. And it's not that we don't want those things in our lives, but we seem to gravitate towards uh, the short term condition of like how it's going to make us feel in that instant gratification that our world is really kind of programming us and preparing us to be more in tune with, versus the long-term effects of what that will bring us. And so for me, peace has been very valuable, because when for instance, if I'm to look at myself in the future and I see myself growing my business or being a mother and having children and being married, I see myself doing my best work and being the best mother and the best wife when I'm operating from a place that's more peaceful, where I'm operating from a place that is more calm. I'm making better decisions. I'm analyzing things better. I'm more connected. I'm more present. All of these things are extremely important. So, why do you think that people are not valuing peace initially, and instead valuing things like that dopamine hit of happiness that comes from like that excitement that people are maybe looking for? Like, this is the reason why I need to make this decision because it feels really good right now.
Okay, you raised a couple of interesting questions. Let's get to them one by one. Let me plant a seed now and we can get back to this later. You spoke about peace and consciousness. Let me briefly address it, and if you are interested, maybe we can delve into it and then we can go back to peace and happiness. Peace of mind is the prerequisite to get into deeper states of consciousness. It isn't just a highest level in terms of a spectrum. It's a prerequisite because think about it. Practically, what is the opposite of peace? It's noise.
Chaos.
Restlessness is the opposite of peace,
Mm-hmm.
chaos. If your mind is chaotic, if your mind is restless, if your mind is noisy, how can you go into deeper states of awareness? Because that needs stillness. You're talking about two opposites. What you're really saying is, I will continue to stir the glass, but I want the water to be still. It's not possible. So, peace of mind is an absolute prerequisite if you want to go anywhere close to this whole topic of consciousness or meditation or spirituality and things like that. I'll leave it there for now. We can revisit it if you want. Now let's talk about peace of mind and happiness. And then we can talk about why people aren't choosing peace. So let me set the context right. What we are saying is our goal is not the pursuit of happiness, it's the pursuit of peace of mind. But what we are also not saying is we don't want happiness. We're not saying that. What we are saying is don't confuse happiness with peace of mind. That's all. So let's be more specific. Don't confuse short-term happiness with long-term peace of mind. So peace of mind plus happiness is an excellent combination. We would love to have that. What we don't want to have is bouts of short-term happiness with no peace of mind.
Mm-hmm.
That's a bad combination. Okay, so in a way, it isn't strictly choosing peace of mind over happiness. It is choosing peace of mind, period. With moments of happiness, even better. With moments of joy, even better. But only those moments of happiness that don't take away your peace of mind. Now you see the connection. So
Mm-hmm.
now you have happiness, but a certain quality of happiness that you allow. So what you don't allow is something that you know is only going to make you happy in the short run, what we call pleasure, instant gratification, those kind of things. But you know it will not make you peaceful in the long run.
Yeah, I almost see I'm kind of getting visuals. This is how I interpret a lot of information is I get shown all these visuals that like metaphors. And I see it as peace of mind as being a very high quality, very fertile soil that you can then grow all of the other plants or flowers, your happiness, your joy, your relationships, your all of that really thrives in the soil of peace of mind. But if you're going to just throw in dirt that maybe has a lot of sand and a lot of rocks and pebbles and a whole bunch of other stuff that doesn't really have a lot of fertility to it, and you try to grow things in there, sure, you can plant something in there, but it may not last very long because it doesn't have anything to nourish it to really allow it to take roots and grow stronger.
That's a perfect analogy, actually. You've created a perfect visual. Let me build on that. We have a visual representation. You will soon see it on our website. It's being redone, which is a circle, and below the circle, there is a line like a rectangle. And that is exactly what you just explained, but in a different manner. The circle represents the circle of life. These are various dimensions of your life: relationship, work, parenting, health, money, all of that. And what we are saying is, let this circle rest on a bed of peace of mind, of contemplation. Because if you're not contemplative about all of these decisions in your circle, that is when many of those decisions may not be right. So you're absolutely right. This is like a soil sitting underneath on which you can plant the right seeds.
Mm-hmm.
Seeds being those dimensions of your life, pathways of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And your wrong choices in the past, and not just the choice you made, but your inclination to make those choices. That's the essence of the
The
choice.
drive.
We're not talking about one choice. We're talking about the muscle memory of repeating the wrong choice, the muscle memory of choosing short term pleasure over long term peace. Think about that in your analogy like a weed with 1,000 roots. Unless you pluck out each and every root of that weed, it will continue to show up. And it'll continue to get you to make wrong choices.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think that this is important because a lot of people will equate peace with boredom, which is, I think, something that it's actually, I think, a trauma response to anyone who's grown up more in drama or chaos in their life, whether it was in their home or just maybe it was their environment at school. I don't know. But I know I definitely myself grew up in a very chaotic and drama filled in household. And so I believed that that was how it needed to be. And so whenever peace initially would come into my life, there would be moments where I would enjoy it, but then I would start to get bored. And I'd almost want to recreate these dramatic cycles or instances without, and this was all very subconscious. This wasn't me consciously choosing it, but it's like you said, it's that muscle memory, right? Coming out. And so, as of course, I go into my own journey when I started my meditation practice at the age of 17 and began to explore more internally my own inner landscape. I started to find a deep value with the peace, which was one of the whole reasons why I left living in a big city like Toronto in Canada and left to live on a tiny little island in the Caribbean, was because I was starting to really understand how the chaos and the drama and the hustle and the constant energy, like you said, like just stirring that glass of water, how it's always in motion, that it was really not providing me what I was truly looking for or needing in my life. And it was something that I learned to understand the value of that idea of peace of mind, having cultivating peace in your life. And I know this is something I, especially when I'm talking to, whether it's new clients or just even friends who are starting to come into the space of learning more about their own inner landscape. What is it that they really want out of life? What actually makes them happy? Is that their first instance is, well, I want peace. I want peace so much. But then when they, start to interact with it, they almost want to sabotage it because they find it boring or it's not what they're used to in a sense of what they believe is how life should be because they're so used to the drama and they don't realize there's an actual addiction to the drama. There's an actual addiction to the chaos, which, like we said, those excited feelings, those dopamine hits that kind of the serotonin, those dopamine hits get actually released through that excitement, but it's coming from a place that is only going to eventually hurt you or hurt the things that you actually are trying to create. So, how do you help people understand or at least even start to redefine their relationship with peace so that they begin to uh, see it more as it's get beyond this concept of it being boring, which is something that I think a lot of people will initially face. But once they kind of get past that, they really do start to see how important it is and the fertility of that, like, so as we called it, that soil. How do you help people kind of move through that phase? I think that's a phase a lot of people go through.
Okay, I think you've raised a couple of interesting threads. Let's address them before we get into how we help people address it. Let's consider the boredom issue first.
Mm-hmm.
Let's define peace of mind. Okay, peace of mind is not being lazy, not being laid back, not being complacent. That is not what peace of mind means. You could be working 18 hours a day on a project and yet be peaceful. Physically exhausted, yes, but mentally peaceful. Mentally exhausted, yes, but still peaceful. So the difference is peace of mind is simply the absence of unnecessary stress or anxiety or restlessness. And I say unnecessary.
Mm.
So if there is a necessary level of stress, let's just call it push, not stress, that is needed for you to get to work, that's okay. It's not harming you. It's getting you out of bed and getting you to roll up your sleeves and say, I need to finish this video today. If even that isn't there, you're talking about laziness, complacency, and I don't want to do anything. So you see, there is this basic needed level of drive,
Yes.
which doesn't have to be stress.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a push.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, peace of mind is the absence of unnecessary stress, anxiety, and restlessness. Okay, that's the first. Now let's talk about boredom. Taking your example and going back to where we started, if you focus too much on the outside, now let's combine the two. If you have an environment that is noisy, filled with distraction, filled with drama, as you said, mind inherently as an entity is restless. That's the nature of the mind. You and I can't do anything about it. We need to understand it so we can manage it. Now you put the two together. You have an inherently restless commodity that you were born with, without any manual as to how to handle that restlessness. And you were placed in an environment of restlessness. If that does not lead to chaos, it's a miracle.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only natural outcome. Go back to nature versus nurture. It's exactly the same. If somebody grew up listening to jazz music all day in a musician's house, those are the things that are playing on their mind. That's the environment there. Versus the kind of environment that you mentioned. So no playbook, an inherently restless mind, and a restless environment. What you described is the most natural outcome. Where it begins to change is, I'm so happy you were exceptionally lucky to somehow have realized that something is wrong. Most people don't even realize it. And it's not their fault because life is genuinely hard. You're going through this circle, you're going through various ages of your life, no playbook. The external is noisy, it is toxic, you're dealing with too many things, you don't know what to do. But if you realize it, And then you look at it and then you say, oh, this is not working for me. That's the start. Because now you have seen something that works better, which is more peaceful. So, to answer your question, why don't people choose peace? They just don't know that they should choose peace. It's as simple as that. Because the world is telling them, choose fame, choose attention. You don't know better. That's all. That's a simple answer. You don't choose better because you don't know better. So many people have gone through the Contemplate program, have said, I never thought about this concept of peace of mind. It never occurred to me. Why? Because think about it. What does the world sell you? It sells you happiness. They made a movie about it, if that wasn't enough.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So you are engulfed in this concept that happiness is what I'm after. And because you're not pausing to think, you don't really question, oh, is it short-term happiness? Is it long-term happiness? Because you're in a rush. Okay? This is what the Contemplate system helps you change. Okay? Two things. The practice of contemplation, as I said, is simply sit and think, reflect. What is that doing? You're not taking a pause. What you did, Nicole, many, many years ago was contemplation. You may not have called it that. That's irrelevant. The essence of what you did was contemplation. You paused and you thought. That's the first step. And the principles give you a framework to think, because both are important. Like you said, sometimes you don't ask the right question and your answer is only as good as the question. Similarly, your answer is as good as the framework you use to think through that question. Because let's say the question is, what should I do to have a good relationship with my boss? It is not working. Maybe the question you should be asking is this even the right job for me? Rather than thinking about repairing your relationship, am I even in the right place? So that's about asking the right question. Very important. Otherwise, you'll keep trying to solve the wrong problem.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And the second part of that is, if you ask a question and if you don't have the right framework, then you might go in circles and say, my boss is unfair, this world is unfair, my ex was unfair. That is not going to get you out of that rut. That is what Contemplate does. It gives you a system to contemplate and it gives you a framework to contemplate. So put in a question, think through the system. That's the audioscope, the decision-making journal that you mentioned.
Yes.
You put in a real question, should I marry this guy? It's a real question. But it's not a bot. It is not going to tell you if you should marry the guy. It gets you to think through that question using a systematic set of questions. But you answer those questions asking, what will make me more peaceful?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I
That's what
think,
God
yeah.
is.
And I think that's what's one of the things that I loved the most from working through your program is how much you brought everything back to this idea of peacefulness, right? Is this going to make me more peaceful or more restless? And when I think back to all of the bigger decisions that I made, and of course, this goes for every decision, small or big, medium, but we tend to really kind of remember the bigger ones. And when I even think about the bigger decision of leaving Canada and quitting my job to move down to the island and start a job down there, I've told people that one of the ways that I was able to navigate that so easily was, of course, it felt very easy initially. It's like, of course, I'm going to quit my job and go down to the island. Like, why wouldn't I go and live? But the problem came when my employers offered me a promotion to stay. And they're like, but we'll make you manager of this very high-end top spa in Toronto. Be fantastic for your resume. And so that I remember initially going, why? Why did I have to get this monkey wrench thrown into my very simplified process of I know exactly what I'm going to do. And when I contemplated what was going to be the best decision for me, because this was a very life-changing, this completely changed the trajectory of my life. So this was a very, very important decision for me. Um, when I think back to that moment, I was thinking about, I went into my heart. Like I would sit, I would relax my body, and I would kind of drop my awareness into my heart space. And I would think about, what would I regret more? Would I regret more going down to the island and missing this opportunity to do the job? And I kind of tuned into this feeling, and I didn't realize it at the time, but the feeling was, what's making me more restless and what's going to make me more peaceful? Because there was an anxiety that came up if I stayed in Canada. There was this restlessness. And it wasn't just initially, I looked at the long term. I was like, because I'm looking at, what am I going to regret? So in a sense, it was like, even though like I was using different concepts and terms, I was kind of looking at the long term, what's going to make me more peaceful and more restless. And so that's how I knew in an instant, as soon as I tuned in, I knew that if I stayed, I would end up being more anxious, more restless, more exhausted, more tired. And sure, initially I would be making more money. It would look really good. I would be evolving through my career. But then I looked at the going down to the Caribbean, and it would be scary at first because it would be new. And I knew that I would be leaving an opportunity behind. I'd be leaving my friends. I'd be leaving my family. I'd be leaving my new condo that I had bought. I was a first time homeowner. And but I tuned into what would have made me happy in the long run. And I knew that it was that decision. I felt a sense of peacefulness in me. Like there was this, it wasn't happiness, it was like a contentment. I was content. And I think that was something that later in my journey, a couple years later, was brought to my awareness in a very, very profound meditation practice that I had through silence, um, 10 days of silence, that I saw the value of contentment. In When you are content, nothing needs to change. You are in acceptance of everything as it is. And that is a very peaceful place to be.
What you went through was exactly a process like this. What Contemplate is doing is democratizing. You somehow were lucky to find that space and go into it. Now we are providing a systematic method to everybody so everybody can do it
Mm-hmm.
in a systematic manner. Because
Yes.
as I said, you at least were naturally lucky and fortunate to even think in that direction. Most people who are busy, plugged into the matrix, and in your case, the matrix called you, it beckoned you because it offered you the next job
It
and
was
the next high
enticing me.
job.
I was holding the little carrot, the golden carrot.
Because that's the job of the matrix, you see. It is
Yeah.
doing its job.
Mm-hmm.
You need to do yours. If you don't ask what makes me peaceful, the matrix isn't going to ask that for you.
Yes.
That is what we're doing with Contemplate, giving that system to everybody.
Yes, yes. And I think this would be this is why so many people come to me initially, is because they want help understanding what decision they should make. Like, is this the right path for me? Should I take this job? Is this the right relationship? What should I do next in my life? Like, there's all these questions, and I understand why people are in this place. And I think that learning how to become a great decision maker for your life because you are the authority. You are the ultimate authority of your life. You should be strengthening your ability to make better decisions for yourself that make you feel peaceful, in the long run, and initially. And so, can you, because I know that so many people struggle with this, as they're trying to build their own discernment and build their own inner authority to making these decisions. And over time, of course, this is a learning process. You get better at it. And it doesn't mean that you don't make mistakes. But what I like about your Contemplate program is that it really minimizes the opportunity to make those mistakes and really helps you tune into exactly what's going to be best for you. You have a lot of different principles in the Contemplate program that people can learn and help understand that will build that foundation for them to make those better decisions. Would you like to share maybe one or two of the principles that people can use to help them start to make, well, one, enter a state of contemplation and use that contemplation to guide them to the best decision for them?
Of course. So the first principle you learn is the principle of the twin voices. You will often hear multiple voices in your head in a given situation. One voice might say, do this, the other may say, do that. We all go through it almost every single day. Personal life, professional life. It could be a simple decision, should I eat that pizza or not? Or it could be a profound decision, should I move in with that guy or not? But you might have voices in your head. So the first principle teaches you and trains you to first identify those different voices. Because if you don't even know that the voices exist, then naturally the loudest voice is going to win, which may not be the right voice for you. But just because it is the loudest, that's what you're going to hear the most, and you will say, yes, I should do this. So the first step, identify the voices. Know that there are voices. Are there two? Are there three? Write them down. Then ask yourself, and if you're listening to this, you could do this as an exercise as I speak. Take a situation in your life, a real situation, write down how many voices do you have. What is each voice saying? Then the next step is you ask yourself, which of these voices, if I were to follow it, would make me more peaceful in the long run? And which one would make me less peaceful or more restless in the long run? So taking your example, taking up that better job, what you did without using the audioscope was exactly this. You asked yourself, what will make me more peaceful in the long run? And the answer was going to the Caribbean. And the other voice which said, take up this job, more money, more excitement, etc., etc. Yes, there is excitement involved. It will not make me peaceful eventually. That is what you did. So that's the first principle, the twin voices. The second principle is the urge to prove, where you're asking yourself, in my conversations with my family members or with my colleagues or people in general, do I experience an urge to prove that someone else is wrong? I am right. I am more clever. I am smarter. You're not good enough. If yes, quietly ask yourself, when I give in to that urge to prove others wrong or prove that I am smarter, is this making me more peaceful or is it making me more restless? It's a simple system. Everything comes back to one foundational theme. Does this make me more peaceful, or does this take away my peace of mind? So urge to prove is another. Then there is negative comparison.
Mm.
Feels good versus feels right,
Yeah. Yeah.
and such other
There's
principles.
there's many great principles in there that once you get a strong foundation of them, it really guides you into all the little pathways that can steer you into restlessness versus the peacefulness. And it becomes very apparent and clear to you um, why making certain decisions brought you the results that they did, and why the ones that you are now making from a different place are going to, excuse me, bring you different results and situations and experiences that actually uh, make you more peaceful and then allow you the foundation to plant better flowers in your garden that are going to be very nourishing to your life. It's this idea of let's just let's actually take the audience through that. They just really let's just use the twin voices, because I think that's the first principle. It's extremely important, and you kind of talked about this. But let's give the audience an opportunity, and of course, to everyone, when he asks the question, like, press pause and really take time to contemplate and write this out, because you will be very fascinated with how quickly things are starting to show you what you should be following versus what you shouldn't be following, in a sense of what's going to bring you a lot more drama or chaos or discord into your life versus what's going to actually fulfill you. So do you want to, like, maybe just take them through that process of the twin voices?
Of course, of course.
Okay.
So pick a situation in your life today. Something like a question. It could be a question that you need to answer. Should I do this or should I do that? Or it could be a situation that is, say, taking away your peace of mind. It could be with your partner, it could be with another family member, it could be work related, any situation. And write that situation down. Once you have described it, then ask yourself, with respect to this situation, what are the voices that I can hear in my head? What are they saying? Write them down separately. So, say voice one is saying, do this. Maybe there is a voice two which is saying, no, 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 do something else. Is there a voice three which is saying, do something completely different? Write those voices down and take your time. Don't rush through this, because as you write through these things, this is called writing contemplation. And then later on, we also do walking contemplation. But this exercise of writing contemplation can start bringing a lot of clarity. So write those voices down, one after the other. Okay. Now that you have written what each voice is saying, ask yourself, voice by voice, one by one, if I were to do what this voice one is saying, will it make me more peaceful in the long run? Or will it make me more restless? Will it take away my peace of mind? Ask the same question for voice two. If I do this, will I be more peaceful, less peaceful? Voice three, will I be more peaceful, less peaceful? Do this for a few minutes. And after this, you should go for a contemplation walk. So take the same thing that you wrote about, but this time think about it walking around. This is walking contemplation. Why is this necessary? Because Writing contemplation can give you a certain set of insights, but very often walking contemplation can give you a new set of insights because your energy flows differently. But you already have the foundation of the situation because you have written about it. So you are clear, you're not random. So this is the exercise. Write about it and then go for a walking contemplation. And do this at least a couple of times in the day today and see what happens over the next 2, 3 days.
Yeah. I really love the walking contemplation part when, you and I were doing the writing contemplation in one of our sessions. And then you asked me to go for a walk and do the walking contemplation on it. And it was very interesting because I noticed that I got much more clarity walking after writing. Like there was something about my body moving. And this is and everyone I'm sure might be different, but for me, I get a lot of clarity when I go for a run. I get a lot of clarity when I'm out in nature on a hike. There's something about my body moving I would say it's a peaceful place for me. Even running is peaceful because there's um there's a sense of focus that doesn't feel distracted. It um doesn't feel like I'm being pulled in all these different directions. And so when I went for the walk, it's just all of a sudden there was a deeper level of clarity that came in that showed me some things of like, oh, okay, yes. And I actually started getting even the clarity started to turn into a building upon it, like so I was getting even more ideas of how to build upon it and why this was the right decision. And it was just showing me how to move forward with it. So I was already getting that part of the decision. It wasn't just that this is the right one. It was then, okay, this is the right one. And this is what you're going to do with this and how it's going to build. So the walking contemplation can be very, very helpful for you guys out there who are listening to this. It's
And you
it's
can build on it. Like
yes.
you then you take it forward and as you said, you make it running contemplation. You can make it swimming contemplation. You can make it elliptical contemplation when you're in the gym. And you might notice that continuing to think about that situation in different scenarios might give you different insights. And we want all of them. We don't want to choose writing or walking. We want both. In your case, you run as well. We want all the three, writing plus walking plus running. That's the goal.
Yeah. And I think too, for all my overthinkers out there who love to ruminate and just spin their wheels in the mud kind of thing, this is very different than that. This isn't going to have you overthinking a process because there's very clear structure that is helping you ground every thought. It's not like the thought just keeps circling in your mind. The questions are helping you ground the thoughts so that they're no longer active and continuously running away from you. And so this is a very different exercise than someone who may really identify themselves as an overthinker in that capacity.
And this is very important, actually. Thank you for bringing this up. Overthinking versus contemplation. This is a very crucial point. And that's where framework or the lack thereof makes a difference.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have the right framework, you keep thinking. We spoke about that circle, remember? That's overthinking. That's just thoughts running through your head. This isn't that. This is contemplation, not thinking, because you're thinking systematically, using a systematic framework with the objective of finding a solution that makes you more peaceful. So this isn't overthinking, this is contemplation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And maybe just to kind of close out here, let's also talk about the relationship between this and intuition, because this I feel is it beautifully marries in the the masculine energy of the thought, the thinking, and then the more feminine aspect of the intuition and feeling. So, can you speak to that?
Contemplation trains your mind to think systematically. And when you do that, you are also systematizing intuition. So, contemplation is your practice to tap into intuition in a repeatable, regular, systematic manner. Instead of being dependent on, oh, yes, I got this in the shower. Now, what you're saying is, I don't have to get lucky. Through contemplation, you can go into that mode and get that intuition whenever you want, wherever you want, in whichever topic you want. That is what contemplation does to intuition.
And I think there's a misconception when it comes to intuition that people think, well, I should just know it. Like, isn't intuition just this knowing? And it's like, well, yeah, sure, it is. But there is a system to the intuition as well. There, you develop and strengthen your intuition through repetitive understanding and tuning into what is truly my intuition and what is maybe my ego or old like feelings, like what's like maybe it's a triggering feeling that is coming up. And having a system is a beautiful marriage to intuition, because remember, to everyone in my audience, intuition operates more in these more of the less linear state of being. It's a less linear thing, where thinking is very linear. But that doesn't mean, though, that you always want a container for that nonlinear experience to operate in. Otherwise, it's just running wild, and you really are. It's almost like you don't know how to tame it in a way that's really going to serve you well. So having a systematic process that works so well to even help you tune into your intuition in a way that strengthens your intuition, it also helps you with your decision-making process. You use both the thought process and the intuition, the thought and the feeling, to come to your best decision for you. And I think that's what contemplation really prepares you for.
Yeah, think about it this way. Through contemplation, you are giving your brain raw material, and it could also be also through additional reading, depending upon what topic you need the intuition for. You also put in that input. Plus contemplation, what you're really doing is giving all this input to your brain and saying, okay, I have thought about this. Now you get to work and give me some new ideas. And what's happening physiologically is, through contemplation, you are exerting mental energy. Actual mental energy is being exerted. So you are growing, think about it this way, visualize this with me. You're growing a certain set of neurons. They're actually physically growing in length. You continue to contemplate on a related topic, another group of neurons started to grow. If you keep doing it, now think about these as plants. You're watering these neurons. The only difference is the water here is your mental energy and not H2O.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, two strands of these neurons are going to meet. That is what you call insight. So if you just wish that it will happen, yes, it will happen, it can happen. But now you see what we're saying. You haven't prepared for it. You haven't worked for it. So you're relying on chance. This is not chance. This is you systematizing intuition through contemplation.
Yes. Yes. Preparing for a even higher experience with it.
Yeah, and the depending upon how long your contemplation sessions are, the depth of your insights, the depth of your intuition increases.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly. It's been a very helpful program, and I would love for my audience to be able to experience it as well, because I think it's a very useful tool for everyone. It should really be part of our schooling system, to be quite honest. This is how we should be learning even as children. We should be brought through this process because it would just help us make much better decisions, which would greatly impact the unfolding of our life. And really, wherever someone may feel stuck, or they're stalled out, or they're not moving and they don't know it, it's because you don't have the skills developed yet to understand what questions you should be really asking yourself to get the best answers. And that's what Contemplate does for you. And there is this Audioscope app that you also comes with it. Would you like just to kind of let my audience know exactly how it works, and if they want to consider joining, what does it kind of look like for them?
So you need to go to the Contemplate website, which is contemplate.life, Life, and through that you get to the app. The app is also available on the App Store. Download the app and create an account and register yourself and get started. You start with an 8-week program where every week, once a week, you learn 2 new principles. So over 8 weeks, you learn 16 principles. But that's just the beginning. Once you are done with that, your journey continues after those 8 weeks on an ongoing basis for the rest of the year and the next many years. You keep deepening your practice. You keep working on things in your life. It could be your relationship, it could be your work or other aspects of your life, parenting, and you can keep going deeper because these principles aren't intellectual in nature. They're very easy to understand. There's nothing to understand. Embodying them is what you're trying to do, and that takes time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you keep practicing slow and steady. There is no rush. You don't need to show a certificate to anybody. You may fall a few times. You forget to apply a principle. Doesn't matter. That's normal. Get back up, start again, apply it again the next day. A little bit each day.
Mm-hmm.
That's how.
Yeah. And I definitely, this is something I highly suggest for all of you out there to maybe get involved with, because it's extremely affordable. So there isn't anyone out there, I think, who wouldn't be able to afford this. And it is allowing you to develop a very important life skill set that you can use in every single area of your life for every decision of your life. And you will become a Jedi master at decision making in your life, where it's no longer feeling agonizing. It's no longer feeling like you are so worried or in fear of making the wrong decision. The decision will be so obvious to you through working through the program of this. It's just a very important life tool. I think it's very practical, which I'm always a huge fan of. It's easy, it brings in that system, but it also will develop your intuition because of it's providing a very strong foundation, not just of the system of how to move through the decision making process, which then allows your intuition to work more clearly, but also you're cultivating more peace in your life, which also is a beautiful foundation for tapping into your intuition and allowing it to grow and foster. the decision makings of your life. So I'm going to leave a link for all of you in the description below in the show notes of the podcast. Please share this episode with anyone because this is useful for everyone. There isn't anyone who couldn't benefit from this. And use this. I've used it myself. I'm in the program, and you will get an email every night from Tarun that is making you accountable in a sense that he's reminding you it's time to contemplate. It's time to go into the audioscope and to work through a situation, to learn your principles. And so it feels like Tarun is with you every step of the way, which is very nice. And you will also be learning how to become much better at the contemplation process. So I highly suggest that. Tarun, is there anything you'd like to leave the audience with, any kind of message or reminder or insight that you think is important for them to have before closing out?
It's not hard, and you have many, many years left in you. Thousands of decisions to make. Clarity of thought is everything. If you can be absolutely clear as to what you should do every minute of your life and why, what brings you fulfillment, purpose, and peace, there is no bigger power than that. That helps.
Well said. Well said. Well, thank you, Tarun, for coming on the show. It's a pleasure to have you on. Lots of beautiful insights in here for everyone. Again, thank you so much. If you are interested in coming to the Forbidden Journey retreat, I am also making some adjustments there. So stay tuned. That will be coming, an announcement there will be coming very, very shortly. But if you'd like to join me, that is September 18th. You can fill out an application to see if it's a good fit for you. And what else is there? I think that's it for now. Just have a wonderful week. I love you so much, and I will be back with you next time. Thanks again for joining me for another show on the Enlighten Up podcast. I love you guys so much for all of your continued support. So remember to raise your vibe, find your tribe, and be open to the infinite possibilities held in the mysteries that surround us all. Thanks again for sharing the show with your family and friends. And if you're new to the show and you need to find out more information about me, please head on over to my website, NicoleFrolick.com, where you can join my newsletter. And please follow me on Instagram, Telegram, and YouTube. Keep your light bright, and I'll see you next week.